Venom with Exiled Existence, and I'm here today to talk about the Monster Hunter World Beta. Man, I am so excited now. I've been playing the beta, played it all day yesterday when I had a chance to. I'm actually out on vacation at my wife's family house right now, but I got some time to go ahead and play the beta. I got to tell you, there's a lot different in Monster Hunter World, but there's still a lot more that's even the same. First off, for those that haven't had a chance to, or for some reason hadn't heard about it, the Monster Hunter World Beta was going on from the 9th to the 12th, and by the time this video goes up, the beta will probably be over. I gotta tell you, just from playing previous Monster Hunters for about a decade now, the game has improved in a lot of ways. Graphically and mechanic-wise, I mean, there's a lot of new stuff to learn. It is still the same Monster Hunter that we know and love, though. New monsters, they're pretty crazy. We've got all our weapons, I mean, including my Charge Blade, which is definitely my favorite weapon, hands down. But let me go a little bit of information over the beta. For those, again, that don't know or didn't get to play it, the beta gave us access to essentially what looked like the three easiest monsters to fight. We had the Great Jagras, and then the Barrios. I can never say these monster names right. I can always say Kutku, right, and Rathalos, but that's about it. But essentially, we got access to 3 different hunts. And we could do it solo, we could do it multiplayer, we had access to all of the basic 14 weapons, we had 6 different gear sets we could use, we had several mantles, which is a new equipable item in the game, and of course they started us off with full hit points and full stamina. You know, essentially they made it fairly easy. I mean, this wasn't a full playthrough of the game, this was, you know, a little taste test for us. Again, I was able to get through all 3 missions, so when I do get the game, anyone getting through all 3 missions get some bonus starting items when they begin. Nothing crazy, nothing game-breaking, nothing like exclusive or, you know, paid for or anything like that. It's just like basic potions and traps, that kind of thing. Things that most hunters are going to have in an hour or 2 of playing and that you'll be constantly crafting anyway. So all it is like a little jump start by like an hour, and it's just a few items. But for each mission that you beat, you got a new item set, or a new set of items for when you actually start the game. The graphics in the game are amazing compared to what we're used to as far as Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter's always had kind of this cartoony-ish feel to it. The monsters, while fun to fight, always seemed a little bit robotic. It's pretty smooth in Monster Hunter World. Huge changes to the game. For one, not having to load into zones. That's a huge one. You'll find yourself when a monster running away, I mean, just chasing it through. You don't have to load into anything. No getting knocked off screen and into the next zone. None of that. It was really cool, really smooth. Movement is a bit smoother now, too. Some of the climbing mechanics, you can kind of speed through them in some cool ways. Again, there's different environmental hazards and different ways to get around the environment. There's a new little mini wave branch you can ride on and kind of fly around a set path now. It's really cool. The 2 maps we had access to were pretty huge. I did not get to explore all of them. Unfortunately, we only had 20 minutes per mission to do them. Normally, missions are at least 50 minutes in Monster Hunter. I assume that'll be back to normal when the actual game is out. The monsters did feel a bit easy to beat. At the same time, we had a huge head start. We had, again, 6 different armor and gear sets, 6 different gear sets, you know, 5 different mantles, the healing spikes. We had a big boost as far as going in there and starting for this beta. I'm loving what I see so far, though. I cannot wait to get out there and start hunting. January 26th is when it comes out. I'm gonna go ahead and start bringing you guys a little bit of gameplay. First off, for those that haven't actually played a Monster Hunter game before, I'm gonna go over the 14 different weapons that you can actually use and kind of give a brief overview of what they do, how to use them. I'm not gonna go over every combo. I'm just gonna show you guys some footage from me in the training area. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on how to use the weapons, what they're for. Later on, I'm going to upload the footage of my 3 team hunts as well as my 3 solo hunts. So without further ado, let's get started with the weapons.
The Great Sword is a powerful close-range weapon. Though attacks leave you wide open, the payoff is well worth it.
First up, we have the Great Sword. The Great Sword is a slow-moving but heavy-hitting giant sword that is capable of charging attacks. Okay, so the Great Sword is not a bad weapon to start off with. It is capable of blocking. It does a lot of heavy damage. You move a bit slower when you're using it, but it's one of the weapons that I've definitely used the most in Monster Hunter. Again, strong weapon, a little bit slow moving, but it makes up for it with the fact you can guard and you have charge attacks, and it actually can be a little quick if you're good using the weapon. But once you get used to using it, you can move around a lot quicker and pull out some pretty good combos.
The sword and Shield is a close-range weapon set that focuses on agility and dodging and is great for beginners.
Sword and Shield, or the Sword and Board. The easiest, hands down the easiest weapon for new hunters to get into. The Sword and Shield is very fast. It does have a guard to it. You can block with the shield, although it is not nearly as strong as the other weapons in the game that do guard. However, it is hands down, it's got some of the easiest combos, some of the fastest speed, and very good maneuverability. Now, in previous Monster Hunter games, you were also able to use items while using the Sword and Shield without putting the weapon away. I did try experimenting with that in Monster Hunter World. It does not seem as though you can use items while the Sword and Shield are out. I even tried to use a slinger and it still put the weapon away. So, I did notice there were more combos with the Sword and Shield though, and it does have a pretty nice shield bash, so I think they buffed the weapon a bit and then got rid of the item using. However, again, very easy weapon for new hunters to get into. I definitely suggest checking it out if you haven't used one before.
The dual blades are close-range weapons made for hitting prey with a flurry of attacks. Demon mode is super strong, but it eats up stamina.
Alright, next up on the list we have the dual blades. Dual blades are all about speed and damage. They are unable to block, however they make up with it with their incredible damage output. Now, dual blades have a demon mode, which essentially makes all your attacks have more combos added to them. I mean, it's insane what it does. Since you're going to hit more, you're going to hit harder, you have access to different attacks. It will drain your stamina while you're using it, but you're able to pump out a lot of damage while using these. Again, these are not able to block, however, they are highly maneuverable, and they put out a lot of damage. So if you want to look awesome while you're doing a ton of damage, these are the weapons for you.
The Longsword is a close-range weapon designed for cutting attacks. You can gather your spirit to increase its power.
Up next, we have the Longsword, another offensive type weapon. This weapon cannot guard at all, however, it's got some very quick attacks, you got good movement speed with it, and it's also got a spirit gauge that you build up and then can unleash very, very powerful attacks against enemy monsters. It's a pretty good weapon, it's quick, it's got great damage, it's not a good one to try and use.
The hammer is a mighty close-range weapon that lets you get up in a monster's face to deal powerful charged attacks.
After the Longsword, we have the hammer. The hammer is one of the highest damaging weapons in the game, if not the highest damaging. It's got some very simple combos to it, cannot guard at all. However, it's got some great charging attacks. It is a very fearsome weapon to take in a battle. You can run and charge with it, unleash some crazy damage. It's great for stunning enemies, great for damage, all around a pretty good weapon, and one of the more popular weapons in Monster Hunter.
Hunting Horn is a close-range support weapon that plays status-buffing melodies. Buff yourself and the team to gain the upper hand.
Next up, we have a technical weapon, the Hunting Horn. The Hunting Horn is, some people would say, is really just a support weapon. However, it is still a very strong weapon as well. The Hunting Horn is special in that you can actually play different songs as you attack and then unleash those songs to boost yourself and your party members. This includes pretty much any buff you can think of. Attack, defense, everything. And I believe there's even some healing songs in there. Again, this is a very technical weapon. Not everyone's going to like playing with it. I see some people that play it very well. Some people just use it for attacking, but this weapon really shines when it's doing all the buffs. As a technical weapon, it is very difficult to master, but for those people that can master it, you will be awesome additions to any hunting party you go on, as well as having a huge edge on any solo hunt you do.
The Lance is a close-range weapon set with strong defensive capabilities. Guard while waiting for a chance to strike.
Next up, we've got our two big defender weapons. First, we have the Lance. The Lance sports the highest defensive capabilities in the game, although its melee combos are pretty limited. For the most part, you just kind of poke at your enemy, you guard, and wait for your time to strike. But again, super good defense. You don't move around that fast with it. It does have a couple of quick, speedy combos, but again, you're going to have to master this weapon to really be able to pull those off consistently. Again, great guard, good weapon, another really popular one to use. In that same category, we have the gun lance.
The gun lance is a close-range weapon that also fires shells. Find an opening, and then put your prey down with Wyvern's fire.
Now, the gun lance is similar to the lance that it sports the highest defense in the game. However, while the gun lance may have more limited melee attacks, it does sport, as it sounds like in its name, a gun inside the lance. The gun has, depending on the gun lance type, has different shells, giving this weapon the ability to attack both at melee range and at a bit of a distance. It also has a very special attack called Wyvern's Fire. Essentially, it's a build-up attack, and then you unleash it at close range, and it is a huge-ass explosion. It's a very fun weapon to use. Again, not as maneuverable as some other weapons, but sports highest defense in the game, and is probably a bit more versatile than the regular lance is.
The switch axe has two forms, axe and sword. You can power up the sword attacks by injecting them with file energy.
Next up, we have the switch axe. The switch axe is a weapon that morphs between axe and sword mode. In axe mode, you build up charges by attacking an enemy, and then you can switch it over into sword mode to unleash some very fast, very powerful sword-based attacks. It also has a very powerful charge attack. It's also got a powerful charge mounting attack that makes this a very, very strong weapon. In axe mode, it's also got an infinite combo. Essentially, you can keep spamming the combo as long as you have stamina, and if you, say, had an item that gave you infinite stamina for a small amount of time, hint hint, you can essentially just keep spamming the very powerful attack and building up charges. Switch axe is a very fun weapon to use. Again, two different modes, so essentially you get two different weapons to play with. While switch axe is powerful, it does not have the capability of blocking. Other than that, again, this is a pure melee weapon, really fun to play with. Next on the list is my personal favorite. We have the Charge Blade. The Charge Blade is another technical weapon, and does have the ability to both attack and defend. It's got a pretty decent guard on it. However, how good it can guard depends on if it's charged or not. You see, the Charge Axe builds up charges by attacking the enemy, and then taking the charges that build up in your sword and putting them into your shield. Now, Monster Hunter World has switched this up a little bit because now you can not only charge up your shield, which will give it a great defense boost, boosting it up to the point that the lance and gun lance have as far as defense. You can also now charge your blade as well once your shield is charged. The Charge Blade also has an axe mode you can morph into. While it's morphed into axe mode, you have access to a different set of combos, and while you have charges in your files, whenever you hit your enemy with that charged up weapon, you will unleash Elemental Burst against it. If you have all your files charged up, you're going to also unleash its ultimate attack, which will essentially discharge all your files and do a huge amount of damage to the enemy. Again, very technical weapon. It is a bit hard to master. Not quite as hard to master as a hunting horn, mind you, because there's a lot of songs to memorize. But if you can master the Charge Blade, it is a very fun weapon to use, and again, my personal favorite.
The Insect Glaive is a close-range weapon that lets you control kinsects.
Next up, we have another fan favorite. We have the Insect Glaive. The Insect Glaive actually comes in two parts. It comes with the Kinsect, which is a little insect that rides on your arm, and the actual glaive itself. Now, the Insect Glaive is essentially a melee staff. It allows for a lot of quick attacks, but where it really shines is the fact that the insect on your arm can be thrown towards an enemy to extract different buffs from it. Now, I won't get into too much detail. These buffs all have various effects. However, once you have all three buffs on, all the buffs essentially get an even greater effect to them. Combined with the aerial hunting style, this is a very good weapon to use for mounting. It's got very quick, powerful attacks. Although it's unable to block, it can put out a lot of damage very quickly. And depending on where you hit the enemy, if it hasn't changed in Monster Hunter World, the Kinsect can also heal you as well, as long as you hit the monster in the right place. Again, depending on the monster, it's going to depend on what part of the monster is going to give you different buffs depending on where your Kinsect hits. Again, it's going to take a lot of hunting and learning to figure those out.
The bow is a ranged weapon you can charge. Focus on your distance while loosing arrows.
Now, finally, we have our ranged weapons, starting with the bow and arrow. Now, the bow and arrow has unlimited ammo, and each bow type will have a different ammo type to it. They could be scatter shot, which are great for close range shots. Could be piercing hits, which are good to keep your distance away from enemies. That means you can back up a little bit more. Or it could be rapid fire attacks, which rapidly shoot out arrows one after another. Now, this is not a distance weapon. This is a mid-range weapon. I know bow and arrow makes you think you can just go across the map and hit them. The bow and arrow is actually a mid-range weapon. So you're not going to want to be too far from the monster. However, you are going to be just out of reach of most of them. So it is pretty helpful. The bow and arrow is also one of the easier weapons to transfer over from being a melee player to going into the range weapons. Bows also have different coatings you can put on the arrow. Anything from power coating, which increases the power of your shots, to close range coating. I forgot what the name of it is. We'll go through that later. But essentially lets you get up closer to a monster to actually hit them in that sweet spot where you get maximum damage. The bow is a pretty fun attack. You can charge up your shots. They have different abilities. It's a fun one to play around with.
The heavy bowgun is a high-powered ranged weapon. It does a lot of damage and lets you use more powerful ammo.
And finally, we have the two bowguns. First up, we have the heavy bowgun, which is definitely the slower out of the two. Because it's so slow, you can equip a shield to the front of the bowgun, which will block for you automatically. You don't have to press anything to do it if you get hit from the front. The heavy bowguns tend to have more powerful ammo types, like explosive type shells, that kind of thing. Whereas their counterpart, the light bowgun, tends to have more status effect ammo and can move around a bit quicker. Now, both of these bowguns have different effects or different specials as well. For the heavy bowgun, there is the rapid fire ability, and the other ability it can have, depending on the bowgun, will essentially be you getting in a prone position and shooting like that from long distance. The light bowgun, however, has its own special abilities, which is the, I think the Waveworm Cluster Shot is what it's called? I'm sorry, the Waveworm Blast. Wow, I don't know where I got Waveworm Cluster Shot from, but the Waveworm Blast. So again, more maneuverability with the light bowgun, however, it cannot block. The heavy bowgun can block if you equip a shield to it. Again, more damage or more powerful ammo types with the heavy bowgun, but more maneuverability and status effect shots with the light bowgun. So pick your poison on how you want to fire. So those are all the different weapon types for Monster Hunter World. Again, 14 different weapons. Each weapon, as you can see, has its own unique playstyle, its own way to fight. And within all these different weapons, of course, there are tons of different weapons in that class to make, tons of upgrades to do, and tons of special abilities and tons of elements to go through. So you really can choose how you want to play when it comes to Monster Hunter World, how you want to hunt. Some weapons are a bit more suited for group play, some are better for solo, but all of them can be done solo when you run through the missions. You don't have to use certain weapons, or you're not limited to using certain weapons when you play through the game solo. And again, all the weapons can work together fairly well. So, those are the weapons for Monster Hunter World. This is your beginner's guide to the basic weapons. Please like and subscribe if you like what you saw. I'm going to be bringing out more Monster Hunter videos this week. Thank you guys for watching. I'm so excited about this game. I hope you guys are too, and we will see you later.